Hey there, welcome back to the CS Value channel, a channel focused on helping customer success professionals. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a tool that helped me overcome overwhelm and burnout at work while also helping me get over 10% of my time back during the week. Let me start with a quick story on how I came about this tool. A few years ago, we hired our second customer success manager. I was the first, and I was tasked with getting them up to speed and transferring a couple of my accounts to them. I just thought, hey, I've been taking care of this large portfolio of accounts all by myself. How hard can it be to do an internal handover and manage another team member? Well, guess what? It was very hard. It was mainly because I didn't really have experience doing this, and neither did anyone within the company. And in addition to that, I was also working on another customer success related project at that time. I wanted to do all of this all at once, and I wanted to do it at my best. Anyone who has done anything for the first time will tell you that if you're going to try it for the first time, it's probably going to be shit. And so was my handover, and that affected my project as well. This led to me missing deadlines, tasks started piling up, and many communications going back and forth between me and the new hire, which ultimately led me to burnout because I had unnecessarily complicated things by trying to do too many things at once and didn't spend enough time on the things that actually mattered the most and drove results. I thought I needed help, and I took this to one of my mentors at that time. He first made me understand why I felt burned out and why I couldn't get the results I was looking for. He explained this to me in a slightly different way. He told me to think of myself as a business of one, where my career was my business. My business provides value, which is the work I do, in exchange for profit, which is the salary I get. To increase my salary, aka profit, I have two options. Either I have to increase the amount of time I spend on working or enhance the output I produce per minute. Now, let's extend this business analogy. If time equals money, consider that a 8-hour workday is equivalent to 480 minutes. Let's say each minute is worth $1, then every day I have $480 to invest into my business, which is my career, and I need to consciously decide on how to spend this limited $480 a day to maximize my returns, which means I need to leverage my time in the most effective way possible to get the highest rate of return on my investment. If I'm not allocating my time wisely to the most impactful activities, I end up spending all of my resources, which is time, which is the only one that I have, without achieving any significant progress. This misallocation in the future can prevent me from advancing in my career, securing new projects within the company, or most importantly, enjoying and doing the more fulfilling tasks that I already like about my work. Since I enjoyed my job, I wanted to continue making progress. So my mentor recommended that I should start thinking like a founder of a business. A savvy founder tracks every dollar wherever it goes to understand where to cut costs and where to increase investments. Similarly, I needed to track my time, and without this, I was just going to run out of investments, like how a business would run out and burn up without the right kind of investments being made into the right kind of assets. Similarly, I might be finding myself spending time on unproductive activities rather than the activities that actually drove results for me. To start, he recommended I use a time log or a time study to track my activities. Now, this is the tool that helped me, where I was able to identify where I could get the highest return on my time and also identify where I was falling short. By understanding this, I could make better decisions and cut the fat where it was needed, and I was ultimately able to get back 10 to 20% of my time in a work week. And this time was then reallocated towards activities that led to the results that I wanted. So here's a tool that helped me do this effectively. The tool is called the Time Study and helps me by keeping a log of what I've been doing throughout the day, and reviewing the summary of this helps me determine whether I've been focusing on meaningful tasks or whether I've just been letting the chaos for the day dictate my actions. It's basically a Google Sheet with drop downs to categorize the activities for the day and formulas to give me daily and weekly summaries. You can find the Google Sheet template linked in the description below. Just make a copy of it, to create your own customized version. In addition to the time study Google Sheet itself, you do need one more item, which is a timer. This can be a physical timer or a timer on your phone. I prefer a physical one since I can easily get distracted by all the shiny notifications. I log my activities in 15-minute intervals throughout the day, and at the end of the day, I get a summary of what are the activities that I did for the day, how long I did them for, and how long was the duration in terms of a percentage for a total work day of 8 hours. I do this for an entire week, so I capture all my activities and I log them in for the whole week, and I get a weekly summary. Now, this table does make me look like a robot, where I spend every single minute of my day completing a task without wasting a single minute. However, that cannot be further away from the truth. To be very honest, there have been times where I might have just been sitting for some time trying to do something, struggling with the mental friction of having to switch between different activities, but I really couldn't find a way to log that into the sheet. And I don't really think you should try to do it either, because the fact that you'll be switching from whatever you're doing to the sheet to log in the activity itself can cause a bit of mental friction. So what I would recommend is what I did, which is whenever I'm going to start a activity, I would log that in, and only when I complete that activity do I come back to the sheet and then log it in again. And if for any reason I got distracted from the main activity at hand and I did something else, I would try to come back and log in as best I can of when I thought I switched activities and I did something else where I should have been focused. And you can see that I've done that for Wednesday here. I log it this way so that I can capture the different times when I'm actually doing a lot of task switching. And for me, this was on a Wednesday during this week, when I was supposed to do proactive activities of preparing something for the week later or something else for my accounts. When I dug deeper into why I was switching tasks a lot, I found out that the accounts management team had an internal meeting later in the day. And because of that, they were asking for details that I couldn't say no to. And I had to focus my efforts on getting the information that they requested for. So this way, it's better to actually log your activities when you start something and then when you end that activity. And then if you're doing something in the middle, try to go back and log it in as best you can, approximately during the times that you think you might have switched tasks. And later, afterwards, when you're actually reviewing this entire sheet, try to identify why you had ended up switching tasks during that time. So let's start by reviewing this week. After I logged in the entire activities, I was able to see that I was spending close to 80% of my time on independent contributor activities while I neglected the internal projects and coaching for the CSM. Just by looking at this table, I was able to understand where I was going wrong. I thought I was giving a lot of time to these tasks, but these short sprints or bursts of work weren't really cutting it. And they're not going to make a difference in the long run either. For example, I only spent less than an hour a day with the new CSM, which really isn't enough when you're working remote. You do need to give a little more hand-holding, especially in the early stages when somebody joins. And similarly, I was spending less than 10% of my week on the CS project as well, which is less than 4 hours for the entire week. So this simply was not going to cut it. Another thing, when I showed this sheet to my mentor, he was very quick to jump on the fact that I spent less than 15 minutes on lunch. And he was like, do you even have a meal? I log my lunch in this way because since I work remote, I take the food from the kitchen, sit down at my desk, my working desk, and I have my food, and I also browse through the activities, or I do something while I'm eating. And he was like, that's really not good. And it's most people, yes, if you're working through a really intensive project, you might do that, but it's not a sustainable practice long term, mainly because your mind doesn't associate you having food and also decompressing. And lunch breaks exist for you to decompress and reset during the day. So he was very quick to tell me, let's carve out some time during the day to actually have a proper lunch break, so that one, you have a meal, and I actually reset midday. And that's exactly what I did. I blocked off 30 to 45 minutes during the day. I blocked this off on my calendar, so nobody could book meetings during this time. And during this time, I would actually have my meal not at my desk anymore, but at the dinner table. And then maybe after dinner, after lunch, I would wait for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then come back, sit down, and start the rest of the activities for the day. I also made some other changes. I used time blocking to block specific times during the week for each activity. I group meetings in the mornings and in the afternoons. I set some time aside after 1 p.m. for the customer success project. I also batched the proactive activities on Wednesdays and on Fridays. I did this particularly because switching between proactive activities and reactive activities is where I found the most mental friction. This is because reactive activities require a different mindset. You're looking at email and you want to respond to that. You're coordinating with support, or maybe there's an escalation. Whereas the proactive activities are more data analytics, where you want to find scenarios that might benefit the customer. You want to promote a certain feature, or you're putting together a strategy that will allow the customer to take your platform to different user groups within the organization. So it really required a very different type of thinking when I'm doing those two activities. So I didn't want to constantly switch between the both of them. I also added breaks in the middle of the day to sort of decompress whenever I was feeling a little too stressed out. I tried my best not to have meetings in the morning, but I couldn't stay away from it. We have a lot of internal meetings during the morning time when we start work, whereas on Thursdays I had to have meetings in the mornings to catch up with customers who were in a different time zone. It just made it more convenient for them. I also stopped jumping on tasks as and when they hit my Slack or inbox. I waited till the next reactive time block to handle those requests. And if I knew that I couldn't complete that request on the same day or the next day, I would let the person know on how long it was going to take and what are the different things that I'm going to be doing during the time that they're going to be waiting for it. And that usually puts people at ease, knowing that their request is being acted on, but it's going to take a little while. And then I also started collecting those requests that came a lot and converted them into templates. And I also shared that with the support team, as well as created internal resources that I could send directly to the customer or to my internal teammates if they needed something on a regular basis, but they just couldn't find it at that point of time. Now, that did take longer, the template creation and everything, but that was a conscious effort that I had to do in order to reduce the amount of time that I would be spending on reactive activities. Now, as a result of all of those changes, I was able to cut down on the amount of time I spent on meetings and reactive tasks by 15%, which is close to 6 hours, I believe, for the entire week. And I took that freed up 6 hours and spent it on coaching the new CSM, as well as spent a reasonable amount of time on the CS projects to make sure that I was actually making progress in those areas without feeling overwhelmed. Overall, I believe these adjustments really helped me have a more balanced schedule and actually get things done. Overall, when using the time study and implementing these adjustments, I was able to create a work schedule that was more balanced, that allowed me to work on my day-to-day activities. It also included time for learning during the week as well. And it helped me carve out time to focus on more long-term objectives. Now, if you want to create a time study of your own, you could keep it very simple, where you just have a column for every 15 minutes or 30 minutes. It's really up to you, and you have the different activities in drop-down boxes. Of course, you do have the template that I'm using linked in the description below. Feel free to use it by making a copy for yourself. Don't edit columns V to W. These are just the working columns. You can change it if you work with a very different schedule. Maybe you don't work 40 hours a week, or maybe you have some time that you do overtime as well. So you can include that time here and it'll be calculated across the week. In addition to this, if you like to edit the template that we've shared in the description below, just head over to the template and make a copy for yourself. And to edit the drop-down activities, once you click on it, you'll be able to see a couple of predefined ones that I've kept. So meeting, and then activities 1 to 5, you have lunch, break, as well as learning. But you can also edit these. So let me just quickly move this down. And if I click on the edit icon, you can see that I've defined these activities from a range under the activities sheet from column A1 to column A9. You can add more if you like, or you can even rename these. All you have to do is update the drop-down criteria here. Make sure you do it for pretty much all of the drop-down ranges. It should update automatically if you update the activities from the activity sheet. All of these drop-downs should reflect the changes. If they don't, just remember to copy paste this range into them, and then that should fix it. In addition to this, sheet 1 will only summarize for the entire week, and so does sheet 2. So it summarizes for week 2, and then in week 3 you can see a column that compares the amount of time you're spending on activities to the first week. I do this in this way because I usually measure or do a time study just for 3 weeks at max. I don't go about 3 weeks, maximum 4 if I'm not seeing the results that I want. Time study is not really an activity that you need to be constantly doing. So if you want to add another week in, maybe duplicate week 1 or week 2 as a sheet, and then add your entries there. And then for week 3, this column basically just looks at week 1's percentage, and then it subtracts it from the current percentage and lets you know whether you've been spending more time or you've actually reduced time for a specific activity. With that said, feel free to play around with the sheet. It's all simple mathematics and formulas that I've actually gone into creating it. There's no complex VLOOKUPs or pivot tables involved, so you should be able to replicate this very easily or customize it to your liking. I hope this video helped you. This is a tool that really helped me when I was burnt out trying to do an internal handover to a new hire and an internal project. Speaking of hiring, if you are someone who is looking to hire someone, then check out this video where I go over a book that finally made me understand what the hiring process was and how it could make or break your team. Till then, bye-bye.